You are live.
Hey, good evening, everybody, and welcome. Lori Windsor, our co-chair, Marnie, our district manager, and all of our guests and members of the committee. I'll just say a few words of introduction and see if Lori wants to say a few words and hand it over to Marnie, who basically knows everything, and our guests today to describe what's going on with 2300 Cropsey Avenue. From what I understand, and you correct everything I say wrong, a mixed-use development with with what was to be a market now might be a charter school and perhaps an ambulatory community space on the property. As you describe it, obviously there will be questions, and I hopefully you will address all those having to do with egress and safety and parking, and whether it's buses and trucks or all the other things that having come before the community board, the attorneys and our friends here know we're going to be asking, and then opening up, of course, to questions. You can tell those are some of the things that I'm worried about. There are have to do with egress and the space being between Cropsey Avenue and Shore, and in a very busy part of our area. Nonetheless, I'll ask Ms. Windsor if she would like to say any words, and hand it off to Marnie for any other information we might be missing, or come back, circle around to Marnie for next steps after the presentation.
No, Mr. Brady, I'm just going to add for the record that the applicant Cropsey Partners requests approval of a zoning map amendment to rezone block 6471, lots 109, and part of lot 13, and block 6928, part of lot 55, the rezoning area, from an R6 to an R6, an R6-C2-4. The proposed action would enable commercial uses on the applicant's lot located on block 6471, lot 109. I believe we have representatives from the applicant here, if you would like to present.
Sure, thank you. Good evening, and thanks to everyone for coming tonight. My name is Richard Lobel. I'm with the law firm of Sheldon Lobel. It's good to see you tonight. With me is Alex Liu from Cropsey Partners, who is the applicant for the proposed rezoning. I'm joined from my office by Fayan Baton. We also have Michael Kang, who's the project architect, Amber Cartalian, who is the environmental consultant from Equity Environmental, and our good friend Dominic Recchia, who is assisting us with government relations issues, and happy to bring him back in front of the community board and see the warm welcome. So I think, Marnie, what we would do is, if we can share our screen, Fayan can run through the application materials. We can kind of demonstrate what the rezoning's about, and then are happy to answer any and all questions.
Of course, you have the ability if you just start sharing your screen.
Great. So,
Yep.
Here we go. So again, this is the 2300 Cropsey Avenue rezoning. When we do rezonings, oftentimes we come to the community board and we ask for rezonings which change the potential bulk of a building, make a building larger, maybe include facets of inclusionary housing, as is the case with rezonings. That's not this one. This rezoning, the building that you see is what you get. The change here is for a commercial overlay, which has the only effect of being able to allow for retail uses. And here it's proposed to have a grocery store in the lower floor of the building. So that's really all the rezoning is about. The remainder of the building, the size of the building, the bulk of the building, everything else is as of right. Even the other uses, and we can talk about the fact that there's school intended for the site, there's community facility space, but this really allows you to get a food store on the site, which we viewed as being important, and which we included kind of why we think that's important in some of the materials. Next slide. So this is the project summary as Marnie read to the community board. This seeks a zoning map amendment to rezone Brooklyn block 6471, lot 109, which is our site, and then parts of two other lots, small parts of those other lots. Within
Richard, just 1 second.
Sure.
Sorry, there's one quick issue with the PowerPoint. 1 second.
I'm going to read it anyway because I have it in front of me. But it's basically allowing for this rezoning within Community Board 11. The proposed zoning map amendment, which we're requesting, will permit commercial ground floor use within an as-of-right residential and community facility building at 2300 Cropsey Avenue. So again, this is just for the ground floor commercial use. You're permitted to do what we're doing here, which is a 23-story as-of-right mixed residential and community facility building. The proposed rezoning allows you to put commercial use on the ground floor, and that's it. The actual square footage would amount to roughly 35,000 square feet for a supermarket. You can use that 35,000 square feet now, but it would have to be for something like community facility use. You could put in 35,000 square feet of doctor's offices. But right now, the proposal allows for this food store, which we view as being a benefit to the area. The building envelope remains the same. Nothing changes as far as the envelope. Next slide. So you can see from the zoning map here, we're located in R6 district. What do we note about the circled area? Well, there's not a lot of opportunity for commercial use. You don't see a lot of commercial overlays along Cropsey here, which to the extent that people want to do food shopping in the area is an issue. In fact, on site visits that we did, we'd oftentimes see people going back and forth in front of the property with shopping carts, for several blocks. And, we viewed it as something which was kind of telling that there really could be a commercial use of the site, that a food store, which would be something which would be valuable here, but which currently did not exist. Next slide. This is a little bit more of a focused tax map, which shows you the extent of the property. So you can see the area with the dotted lines. That would be the area of the proposed rezoning. It would be the entirety of lot 109, which is our lot, and then small parts of this adjacent lot 13, as well as lot 55. Next slide. And then this is just this shows you the back end of the rezoning. But here's the area map, which kind of demonstrates why this site is appropriate for a commercial overlay. You see on Bath Avenue, there's some properties that are shaded in orange where you have ground floor commercial uses. On Cropsey, what you really have is primarily these large community facility buildings and nursing homes, et cetera. But you don't really have along Cropsey any commercial overlay. The commercial overlay that's being proposed here, which is a C24 overlay, is one which is seen as being complementary for residential use. So there's more intensive commercial districts, C4 districts, C5 districts. Those would allow for office buildings and more intensive commercial uses, use groups 9 through 12, et cetera. That's not this. This is a C2 overlay, and C1 and C2 overlays are seen as being very consistent with local retail. They basically are used to service the local residential population, which is the intention here. It's basically the idea is that people in the proposed building, people in the surrounding area would be able to visit the site, do their food shopping, and leave. Next slide. We include pictures in the next slide of the adjacent buildings and also of the current building that's under construction. Again, Cropsey Avenue here, a wide street. It's seen as being an appropriate area for a commercial overlay district. Not changing the building envelope at all, but basically changing the opportunity and the availability solely on the ground floor to use as commercial use. And then we have plans and materials included with the site. You can see on the adjacent lot 55, the 7-story nursing home. And then you can see on the site plan, and we also have Michael Kang here, the project architect, who's able to talk about any architectural issues. You can see the outline of the building at the site. The building contains a 3-story base, which would include the ground floor commercial use as well as community facility square footage. I know that the charter school was mentioned. That again is an as-of-right use of the property, which could be located there regardless of the rezoning, but that is currently the intention, as well as some additional community facility space. And then you've got the 23-story residential tower above the commercial use. With that, and obviously not so easy to see a lot of this, but these are just the general layouts floor by floor. Dan, if you just kind of want to page through. With that, I think probably what we would do, and we've got the opportunity to call up different plans and materials to the extent that there's any questions about the floors. We're happy to answer any specific questions. Alex is here from Cropsey Partners. Again, Michael Kang, our architect, our environmental consultant is here as well, Amber Italian. We're very excited about the opportunity to have a food store here, and we're happy to answer any questions.
I'm sorry, thank you very much. Could you, I don't know if you want to go back, could you show us or tell us where the entrance is? Is it on Cropsey, where the entrance is, where the egress is, and where there'd be, I guess, loading and unloading?
Sure. Fan, if you want to put up the site plan, Michael, I know I see you on the Zoom. Are you able to speak as well or no?
Let me unmute myself. Can we go back to the the plot plan? Actually, the parking area for the second floor and the cellar is from Cropsey Avenue with a ramp all the way down to the cellar with two car elevator go all the way, and then in the cellar area, go all the way up to the second floor for the second floor parking. And community facility entrance,
The second.
yeah, this is the first floor. Yeah, this is the first floor. The residential lobby is really on the side yard. This is a residential lobby. For the side yard, it's not, you can access from the side yard from Cropsey Street or from Shore Parkway. And either way, to get access to the residential lobby in the center of the building. And the community facility lobby is really accessed from Cropsey Avenue.
So, I mean, you've anticipated a lot of foot traffic. I guess not so much, and I'm glad that you're addressing, parking for people who are coming to use the commercial space, which is an issue. But not only parking, but when and how will you, load trucks for and how will they swing out if the entrance on Cropsey? And if so, how will that work? How are you providing for trucks to come in and deliver if a supermarket is the commercial use?
Either they can come in from Cropsey, from the parking ramp, go all the way down to the cellar. We have loading dock in the cellar. And also they can use the Shore Parkway, which does not have a lot of traffic, vehicle traffic. They can use the Shore Parkway for loading and unloading.
Okay.
Correct. I'm sorry.
No, go ahead.
Yeah, correct me if I'm wrong, just about the mention that Shore Parkway loading and unloading. Correct me if I'm wrong, but Shore Parkway, besides the parking on each side of the street, is very narrow. It's like one, especially back there. It's a dead end, I believe, if I'm not mistaken, where you guys are, right? On Shore Parkway, and it would be I don't know if there'll be I know this is right next to the Haim Solomon nursing home, correct?
Mhm.
Correct.
And the road behind the nursing home, I believe that's Shore Parkway. Correct me if I'm wrong, it ends there in a dead end, is that right?
Yes.
Yes, that's at the end, yes.
Right, so you'd be loading in the dead end, right?
Well, you're loading a dead end and you can turn around and back up.
Right, so I'm saying when you said that you'd be using Shore Parkway to do the loading, you meant that dead end area, right?
Yes.
Okay, just want to stay for the record, I have no objections to this point.
So, hi, it's Marnie. While I'm taking notes to prepare, Shore Parkway is the service road and the exit from the Belt Parkway. There are no trucks. There's no way to get access there. So you wouldn't be able to use that.
We can actually get access either from 24th Avenue and coming to the dead end to Shore Parkway and turn around and go off on 24th Avenue.
Yeah,
So,
but
like I
that,
say, there was a two-way they can load in and unloading. The other way is go down to this from the Cropsey Avenue, go all the way down to the cellar, which we have a loading dock, two loading dock at the cellar level.
That street is not wide enough for trucks to come down.
24th Avenue,
No, Shore Parkway.
Shore Parkway.
Yep.
Well, they can either use that or they have two choices, like I said before.
Yeah, but you have to remember, they have 18 wheelers that deliver to supermarkets.
Well,
All right, we're not talking about box trucks that are coming down or these like bread trucks that come down and deliver. You got 18 wheelers coming down to unload for supermarkets. And if it's a big supermarket, you're going to have quite a number of 18 wheelers coming down.
I just want to add for a second. So Alex, Can you just weigh in for a second about Shore Parkway there? I know that during the construction process, there was some access to the site through that area. I think the intention on a going forward basis was that, as Jeff mentioned, the 18-wheelers probably wouldn't be able to fit there, that it would be more smaller deliveries, if anything, and that the larger trucks would have to use Cropsey. Is that right?
They also wouldn't be able to make the turns.
Right.
Richard, this is Kevin Williams from Equity Environmental. We're the environmental firm that provided the rezoning. And maybe I can provide a little bit of clarity to Mr. Harris's question in terms of truck access. So New York City has a limit of 50 feet of trucks. And this is not an 80,000 square foot supermarket. You're more likely to see box trucks at the 30-foot size go into the facility with smaller deliveries associated with a significantly smaller New York City urban oriented grocery store. And in terms of, if you're talking about a 4-axle, 48-foot regional distribution truck, those generally do not deliver to grocery stores in the New York metro area. But Mr. Harris, if they did provide that, that the ability to alight and to pull into the garage ramp, and this is something that Mr. Kang will have to confirm, and that DOT would have to also concur with, is that the auto turns or the turning movements associated with a truck of that size would have to be accommodated by the use. So prior to being able to retrofit this use under a future DOB action, they would actually have to make sure that that access is available, or you could not provide access to such a truck, which means the grocery store would have to have its suppliers have distribution vehicles that are of a size that could be accommodated by the site. And I would argue at a certain point, if this is a concern with the community board, because we do believe that this is a food desert, the applicant and a future tenant could certainly stipulate that a certain size truck would access the site. But I would remark that DOB and DOT will not allow this with the proper curb cut sizing to be able to access a grocery store. And that would constrain the ability to to provide such a size of the vehicle into the site.
Also, can I just ask the question about if, let's say, you use the parking lot for the trucks and they're larger, what's the clearance for this parking garage? Will the trucks make it?
Yeah, Mr. Kang would have to address that, but that's exactly the point, is that they would have to be sized with proper clearance above the overhead of the cube into the basement, and to be able to make the move back out of that loading dock area.
Yeah, well, I think everyone, like Marnie, we can discuss it later, but as Mr. Williams says, we can stipulate or make a suggestion regarding the size of the trucks when we discuss this amongst ourselves. But I thank you for addressing that.
Excuse me, do we have any idea what supermarket is going to occupy the space?
Alex, have you talked to any potential supermarket tenants? Have we identified anyone yet? You're muted. You can't unmute?
It looks frozen.
There you
My
go.
apologies. My computer did freeze for a few seconds. To be respectful of the community, the ownership has not spoken with any supermarket operators yet.
So it's more of a discussion, and we can kind of take recommendations, and then we would kind of discuss our outreach to supermarkets accordingly.
If I could just say something on that, Richard.
Yeah.
I have spoken to the councilman about this, and the councilman has been reaching out also to other supermarket vendors, and he's been trying to see who would be interested in coming in there. And he has been putting the word out. I know he spoke to 1 or 2 vendors about coming in there.
Great.
Mr. Lobo, I have a question about how did you determine, I understand you want to make it a commercial space, but how did you determine that we were in need of a supermarket, especially with all the major traffic that goes around over by Cropsey and the senior homes and people who go visit senior homes, they can't find parking spaces.
Sure.
It just seems like a place that is very trafficked. So why put a big supermarket there? Could you think of something else?
Yeah, you know, I mean,
Commercially.
a little bit of his, yeah, sure, we understand. I mean, a little bit of it was reflective of what the discussion was around the as of right development. So when the owners went into this and the applicants went into this, they basically were looking at this additional 37,000 square feet. And because you're in an underlying R6 district, really the only feasible use for the community facility space is a school or it's doctor's offices. And so, you know, I know that Kevin and Amber, who are on the phone with us from Equity Environmental, particularly looked at the traffic and parking issues surrounding what would amount to be an extra 37,000 square feet of medical. And that in and of itself is, you know, rather intensive use and creates its own traffic issues. So when we entered into conversations with some of the stakeholders in the area, we had our conversations with the council member and did some site visits. It became kind of clear that for locally oriented shopping, for people who, you know, we were by the site, we did a visit, I'll never forget, it was kind of cold out, and there were literally 3 elderly women, you know, within the span of about 20 minutes who were pushing carts up and down Cropsey in front of the site. So I think part of the intention, and Amber, you can feel free to weigh in, but part of the intention was that if you have a locally oriented food store here, that a lot of the, you know, larger residential developments in the area and also, yes, some of the residents of maybe the nursing home, et cetera, would utilize this, would utilize the food store, and that when the traffic and parking penciled out, there was no adverse impacts from the additional traffic that would be caused by that use. I mean, Amber, am I like, does that get it correctly?
Yeah, that's correct, Rich. And actually, we were asked to evaluate local retail instead of a supermarket because it's actually more conservative and it produces more trips. And even when comparing medical to the local retail, we have negative 55 trips in the morning, for instance, -4 in the PM period, -6 in the Saturday for vehicular trips. So it's actually a medical use is more intensive in terms of the vehicular traffic that it would generate.
Amber,
Okay,
thank you. But I do have a question. Since that area is very trafficked, I just feel like having any kind of commercial use property there, why couldn't we make something where the residents of the 23-story building can use that ground space as a gym or whatever it is, but not something that's going to create more double parked cars? And it's just an area, I think Cropsey is very trafficked. I just don't know why you would put anything, you know, commercial there.
Rich, if I could just address some of the nuance on that. So parking is supplied. There's significant amount of parking supplied for all the uses proposed. So it's not like the required parking for the local retail is not included in the bulk. So that there actually is a significant amount of parking available. And the other reason, I think, if you look at the supermarkets in the area, you know, Seatown is kind of the closest one. It's about a 15-minute walk, you know, away from here. And that causes car trips from the neighborhood, from the existing residential here. And basically what this is doing is it's eliminating a food desert. And when you have food deserts, you have cars and pedestrians that are generated walking and bringing back those shopping carts. And I would suggest that a lot of the need that's particularly in this corridor is going to be pedestrian. And one of the things that's important to note is that since 2018 and 2019, all of the major access points, and 24th down to access to the Belt Parkway, all have enhanced pedestrian crosswalks with mid-block crossings. I mean, it's basically the Complete Streets program has been deployed on this corridor. And one of the other things, I think, if folks have been out there over the last few years, what's frustrated some of the traffic is actually the construction going on, you know, on this and adjacent sites where they've had to take up a parking lane and so that's going to go away. So I just asked to take, that constellation of statements, collectively, because I really do think you're going to see, even though, yes, it's very busy corridor, you're kind of removing trips for people going to try to get these local needs, with on-site trips.
So
And also
I'm
to
give
picturing
Jeff
I'm picturing an old woman with a shopping cart crossing this major street when cars are going quickly to go to Home Depot, to go to a soccer field, or to go to BJ's, which is a big, food place. So I just think I'm being very sincere.
And
I just don't want to
they're
see an
doing it
old
the
person
other,
being run down trying to cross
I
the street to go food shopping.
I do understand that, but what I'm suggesting is people are doing it the other way right now. They're crossing the street, and you have 3 controlled intersections with mid-block raised curbs with bollards, and it's very well protected. And so what I'm suggesting is it's either one or one of the other. You either have to walk 15 minutes, and all the elderly have to cross the street and walk down to Seatown, rather than getting their food at their building right outside their door. But I
Also,
do
just to-
understand.
Thank you.
just to-
We have,
Yeah,
We
go
have-
ahead. I just want to clarify
I'm s-
one thing, which is that the intentions also, because there was a suggestion about maybe other types of small retail. I think the intention was not to provide the entirety of the 37,000 square feet for one massive supermarket. I think also that the applicants have also talked to a small pharmacy. I understand that they've also talked to a small bakery. So there would kind of be like a little bit, of more local small retail where which would kind of break up some of the, some of that large commercial space. So just for what it's worth, that's part of the program.
we have Jeff and then Andrew with their hands up, so I'll go to them, but I think you can hear from some of the comments that we want to take back, that any tenants that come in, we would want to impress upon them that we don't want to have cars backed up. If it's a pharmacy, we don't want to have tax the police with enforcement, with people jumping out to go in. We want to keep any backup off Cropsey and offshore. So those are very important things to take back with you.
Understood.
And let me hand this over to, I see Jeff and then Andrew. You have your hands
Thanks.
up?
Yeah, thanks. When it was mentioned about the traffic in the area, now nobody ever mentioned traffic from Bay Parkway. That building is right behind, right in front of Caesar's Bay Bazaar, which has Target and Knowles and the other one, the electronics store. Now you get a lot of traffic coming in and out of Caesar's Bay, coming on Bay Parkway, which is around the corner from 2300. Between that and the traffic that's going to accumulate from 2300 supermarket, it's going to be a disaster in that area. It's a disaster there now. Between the right-hand turns, the left-hand turns, traffic is always backed up on that intersection. If that traffic is backed up on the intersection, it's going to affect 2300. You put a supermarket there, it's going to be a disaster. I've seen it.
All right.
All right. And to mention, it was mentioned regardless the size of the trucks being delivered. I have a Seatown a block from me. They get deliveries with an 18-wheeler. It's not a big Seatown. It's a normal size, mom and pop store. And they get deliveries with an 18-wheeler, not an oversized 18-wheeler, but a regular 18-wheeler. So, the comments was derogatory of mentioning the size of the trucks. The other thing you got to take in consideration, pricing. If the supermarket has to get smaller trucks delivering, that means the prices of their products are going to go up to accommodate the number of shipments they're going to get. That's part of supply and demand. That's economics. I've seen that. I used to work in a supermarket, all right, years ago. So, a lot of these things affect having a supermarket over there. It's not clean cut where you have traffic, you have parking, and you're going to accommodate the trucks. There's a lot of things behind it that has to be thought out. And to what I'm hearing now, I don't think this has been thoroughly thought, to be honest with you. I'll leave it to Andrew now.
Did Mr. Kang, were you, did you have an answer, or?
Yeah,
Because
well,
I have Andrew, Leon and Irene online. Go ahead.
like delivery, my office in Queens is right next to a supermarket, which is a 12,000 square feet supermarket. It's not a small one. It's one of the biggest in Flushing. And they use box trucks. They don't use 18-wheeler because they know the street is too small. They cannot do that. So that's the reason why there's a lot of way to operate a supermarket. 18-wheeler is not the only way. There's a lot of way to do that. And supermarket is one of our options. We're thinking about maybe develop and maybe other options to have local food store or a small restaurant or a small bakery. There was a lot of possibility. 18-wheeler is definitely not going to be the only province. Well, we're not going to force the 18-wheelers to park in the Cropsey Street. And besides of the delivery, parking space for a customer or anybody else, we have more than 100 parking space on the cellar and the second floor. I think that's more than enough to accommodate a big supermarket or local several small stores.
Thank you, Andrew.
I'll come around later. Thank you.
Leon and then Irene. That was the order I saw the hands.
My comment is essentially for Mr. King. He had mentioned that there may be some parking or deliveries unloaded on Cropsey Avenue at one point. If that's the case, the 2300 being next door to Haim Salomon, I believe there's a couple of those buildings generally have access rides or ambulances or even visitors that are coming. That's going to create a backup for the ambulance to get close to the curb to assist the patient, or the access ride to get close to the curb to drop off someone or pick up someone. It's just something that needs to really be thought through.
Well, the nursing home has their own driveway on the side in front of their building. And I have seen a lot of car coming in and parking on their side yard, which is in front of their entrance. And ambulance is coming in and out in that area too. I don't think the ambulance is going to have a problem to park on the Cropsey Avenue or create any kind of trouble on Cropsey Avenue. For the nursing home, and we do have a lot of parking space reserved for the nursing home. I believe it's like 40 or 50. It depends on the ownership agreement with the nursing home. And that's for the visitor, it's not for ambulance. But I believe that this project is not going to, well, it's a supermarket or a local retail store is not going to create any kind of problem, parking problem or vehicle problem or traffic problem for the nursing home.
Thank you. Ms. Chu?
Yes. So I just need some clarification. Maybe Mr. Kong can explain more, because I heard you said there'll be about 100 parking spots that shall be enough for the customer for the commercial space. So could you clarify on that part? Is it like those 100 are designated for the supermarket, or it's going to be split with the residents on top of the building, or how do you gonna differentiate how many percentage of the parking were for the residents and how many spots are actually designated specific for the commercial area?
Yes, we have 81 parking in the cellar, 134 parking space on the second floor. It's total 215 spaces for the entire building, and 81 and also required parking for the residential is 127. The required parking for the community facility, which we have now, is 109. So altogether is 236 parking space in the building, and 109 of them is dedicated to community facility now, and it could be dedicated to allocated to commercial parking.
Okay, no problem. Thank you.
All right. Oh, Andrew still had. Andrew, you want to go, or I'll set it back to Marnie.
One more go around. Sorry. Thanks, Ross.
Okay. Well, were there any other questions? Am I missing hands?
Yes. I think in the original documentation, it had a total of 263 parking spots. But it was originally 108 in the cellar, and now it's 81, so it went down by like 20 something.
Mm.
Actually, there was a revise on the drawings. So actually by now, by the latest DOB approved drawing, is 236 parking required. And we have 215 on our building, and 21 parking is at the adjacent side yard for the nursing home. So altogether is 236 by the
Right, it
latest
was originally
application.
263. So who's using the 21 in the exterior lot then? Who's that reserved for?
Excuse me, I can't hear you clearly.
There's 21 exterior parking spots. Who's using those? Who are they set aside for?
Well, that's because this is a combined lot. We combine the nursing home together with our lot. And nursing home has 21 parking on ground on their side yard, adjacent to our property. That's dedicated to nursing home and used by the nursing home.
So then really it's not 236, and it's really just 215 for the complex.
So altogether is 236, of 215 in our building and 21 on the nursing home. If you can go back to the plot plan, you will see there is 21 parking on ground for the nursing home.
Trying to pull it up. Give me 1 second.
And just to be clear, you know, obviously this is a process, and we look at alternatives. And a lot of times when we come in for applications like this, we're building a bigger building. That's not the case here. You know, I think we looked closely at the fact that we didn't have to go through this process, and there could have been just a lot of medical office and community facility office, which I don't think would serve the area as well. I think the opportunity to have some smaller retail in here with food stores, the opportunity to get feedback from the community board like this with regards to the retail that's desired there is important to us as applicants. Again, I think the comments around the parking and limitations on the size of trucks, et cetera, we're happy to take that all in and to figure it out as far as you know, what the community feels is the optimal solution going forward. And you know, so we did, you know, while we're calling up the parking, we do want to say that we appreciate the comments and we're taking them all to heart.
Go back to
Thank
the
you.
plot plan. The plot plan. You can see there was 21 parking space around the side between the nursing home and our building. This is a 21 parking space on ground for the nursing home. And also, if you see, there is a hatch line in front of the nursing home entrance. That's I see a lot of vehicles and emergency and ambulance coming in and out on their side yard, on this hatch yard.
I think effectively then, if you had 127 for the residents, then that's where that 81 comes in. And if you've studied it and, you know, if 81 is sufficient for the, you know, amount of usage and visits during the certain times of the day, then that's what we're looking at, you know, 81 spots dedicated for commercial use, if you want to put it that way. So I think that would help, that so we know that if that's that you consider that ample parking. It wouldn't end up with any backup into the streets, right?
Yeah, we can definitely do that because we didn't designate it which parking lot is for commercial use or residential use. Most of the residential use is definitely going to be on the second floor because they don't in and out that often. So that's definitely makes sense.
Okay.
Okay, so
Andrew's ready. Oh, I'm sorry. Your mom outranks you. I'm sorry.
Yeah, that co-chair. Go ahead.
sorry about that. I do want to hear about the plans for the school. You mentioned that there would be possibly a school.
Sure.
Yeah, there's going to be a charter school on the second floor, on the third floor.
Which charter would that be?
So I think the current conversation was with the Hebrew Language Academy. That they would be, that they would have a location here. Again, as of right use, but was included in all our calculations to city planning with regards to, you know, everything surrounding the operations of a school. And Amber and Kevin can weigh in, but I think that was seen as being a complementary use to other uses on the property.
So how much square footage would the school have?
Michael, do you have the number on the square footage occupied by the school?
It's about 36,000 square feet.
And what grades would they be serving and how many students?
Kindergarten to 5th grade, and they're expecting a maximum enrollment of, I believe, 400 total students.
Oh, my God.
Well, have we talked about in terms of school buses, in terms of where they're going to be loading and unloading? Because that's a huge concern. They need spots to be able to drop off and pick up their students.
Yeah, I know that they're in preliminary conversations with, they have to, you know, coordinate with DOT on no standing school days signage to permit drop-offs and pickups. So that would likely be along Cropsey. I think there's 150-foot or so frontage in front of the building that would allow for that. And again, that's, you know, that's an as-of-right condition that would be occurring whether or not this application was.
Yeah, we'd still be concerned about the same things we always are, stacking and a busy street. But Andrew's chomping at the bit.
I had separate line of questioning related to the actual upzoning. So I'm going to come back to that later. But I wanted to address now 400 students getting picked up not only by school buses, but possibly parents and double parked cars. But then also, as great as it is to have school buses pick up students in front of a marked off area, that's what it would be, killing parking spots. Would it not be? Because now you need to actually have spaces available from 7 a.m. to 4 p.m. every day to pick up those kids, 400 of them, which I can only imagine is around 10 to 20 buses. Tell me I'm not crazy.
No, it would likely be, I mean, we work on many schools, and just based on this area and that number, it's likely 3.
Okay.
3 yellow school buses. That's what we typically see, and probably at that, and I'm talking maximum enrollment of 400. I mean, this is just preliminarily, but 4 yellow school buses at most likely 3, and
I know, but as a former,
and also,
sure, Amber.
with that length of frontage, we're probably talking about an elimination of only, I don't know, Kevin, 12 parking stalls maybe?
Those parking stalls have been occupied by a construction shed for the past 3 years. So I'm not sure that they're currently signed or obviously utilized or otherwise been occupied by construction vehicles. But bear in mind, again, you know, that the project is generating 81 commercial spaces in terms of taking away on-street parking spaces that were present, say, 3 or 4 years ago. You know, there are additional uses here, and I'll understand also that a grocery store and a school and a residential use all have different sort of peaks. You know, so, you know, commercial, particularly grocery store, is the sort of thing that, you know, parents and children and people picking up their kids after school or people going home after work, you know, schools get out at anywhere from 3 to 4 o'clock. That's not peak drive time. And in fact, I've been out to the site dozens of times. The traffic is intense in the AM and PM. In the middle of the afternoon, 3 o'clock, it's not nearly as intense. But, you know, these are not things as a sub part of this application, as Amber said, like one of the mainstays of our practice is basically placing schools. And we are very, very understanding of your concerns and everybody on the board about this. And again, you know, as Rich said, we're happy to provide more nuance, you know, on a possible operating plan. But again, to place a school here, it has to go through school safety, traffic engineering and planning, potentially signals, and various number of other entities, the ICU unit, which handles basically stop signs and whether a school, an area is approved in a school no standing zone. But that is generally the idea, as Amber said. Yes, you would have drop-off traffic. And the
Is there
school
any
have
way?
to manage that? Yeah, go ahead, sorry.
Sorry, I'm sorry, I thought you were done. Is there any
No.
way that the parking lots can be used to drop off the students? Because I do, I know someone said a moment ago, it may only kill 12 spaces. For anyone who lives in this neighborhood, every parking space is very precious and a big cause of concern. Is there any way that the parking lots can be used for to safely drop off and pick up the students and not kill any parking spaces at any time of the day or night?
Yeah, so that's certainly something that can be evaluated. And here, because you do have the benefit, as was noted, sort of parsing between whether it's 235 or 217, the site is served, the uses that are present there are served by the 217. And with a managed parking operation, absolutely, that's the sort of benefit of a mixed use building. There's different, so people depart during the day, right, and leave and go to work. And then during that time, commercial traffic can use those spaces. So during the day, you're going to have a reservoir of parking for the neighborhood, on the street that you never had before. And far outstripping the number of on-street spaces that are being provided. And as far as schools go, absolutely. Is it possible that parents needing to be dropped off or a section of the garage could be evaluated for that use, given a proper management of the facility? I think, Alex and the team would certainly be happy to evaluate that. And I think at this stage, because, the school hasn't been, formally placed, the things that have to be evaluated in terms of evaluating a school operation are, what are the characteristics of the students? Where are they coming from? Are they arriving by private car? Are they using yellow bus? And that's something that, when we meet with this committee next time, we can hopefully get some more information down so to properly characterize how this school would operate, because schools, whether public, private, charter, they all operate a little bit differently. Some have more walks, some have more bus utilization. So, we would need to texture that consideration in terms of being able to use the parking assets to accommodate some of the parent arrival needs.
Well, that would be appreciated. And I think maybe Marty could tell me if I'm off the wall, but we've had other busy places. It's definitely not analogous, so don't jump on me about this, but on McDonald Avenue, we've had schools come in. There have been actually special ways for buses to come in. And I know from having where I had worked on Eastern Parkway in another district, we had a school of about 400 people in the building that I was operating. And, the buses actually couldn't pull up. They weren't allowed to pull to the curb. So they blocked actually a side road, a conduit, for a good amount of time, which is not the case here, as I'm hearing. But since this is still under consideration, if there is a consideration, I know not in major design, but of reducing or eliminating even the small amount of time that there might be stacking or there might be a lane of traffic blocked, by having some way for the buses to either come off the road or come closer to the curb than rather than block, then any kind of consideration that could be looked into leaving that would certainly be appreciated. Am I off the wall, Marty? No, not as much as usual.
Excuse me.
Eileen?
Yeah, is there anything else that's going to be put in this building? Little by little, there's more and more added.
No, it's mixed use residential community facility and commercial with the square footages and layouts that we've presented to the committee. So what you see now is what you get.
It doesn't sound that way.
Ross, if I may ask,
Yes,
thank
sir.
you. I wanted to go ahead with the actual upzoning and the proposed development, not only for your own. I believe you are only here representing 2300 Cropsey Avenue, correct?
Correct.
And so that this also includes 22230 Cropsey Avenue as well as 2340 Cropsey Avenue in a whole upzoning package, correct?
No, that's incorrect.
That's incorrect.
Correct.
I'm sorry. Would you please proceed?
Sure. So first of all, the term upzoning refers to a rezoning which results in additional floor area to the site. So it's not an upzoning. This is a rezoning which would allow for a commercial overlay, which would not change the bulk or footprint of the building at all. It would just permit commercial uses. And Fan is sharing her screen.
Thank you.
The second thing, sure, no problem. And the second thing is you can take a look at the at the dotted line, which shows the area of the actual rezoning activity. And so, for example, the lot 13, that black grid mark right there that you see over the site, that's the commercial overlay. So the portion of 2230 and as well as the adjacent lot 9 to the north of the site, you can see that the amount of those lots that are included in the rezoning are actually de minimis. It doesn't even cover the building. It's like, linear. It's like maybe 5 to 20 linear feet. So you can't actually take advantage of the commercial use except for in that hashed area, which, as you can see, Andrew, just really covers our building.
Right.
So the reason that we do that is basically because city planning, they're a little bit nerdy and they like even numbers. And so you can see that 380 feet line and the 240 foot line, that refers to distances from the side street so that they can put that on the map. But other than that, it's really just affecting our property and this little bit of overage, which they can't take advantage of.
Right, that overage was what? Which one?
You can see the overage. It's like two small triangles. One is that triangle that goes onto the lot to the south of us, which is Haim Solomon, and then the other one is that tiny triangle. Barely even anything there. We're circling it.
Thank you. That helps.
No problem. Anyway, that's it.
right.
Yeah, I just had a question about lot 55 on block 6925 under 2340. It says it's under an R6 already, but then if you go ahead and would we be doing this up with would it be changing at all from an R6? I'm asking.
No, the zoning of that site.
Yeah.
No, the zoning of that site is currently R6 and would be remaining R6.
Right, and so they only did it just for, like you said, like making it look pretty and sound pretty and like the number. Yeah, okay. I just wanted consistency about
sure.
Reading the documents over. I didn't understand necessarily why these were included and slightly affected, but like you just said, it had almost zero practical effect on the actual.
Correct.
Right. I was concerned that then your neighbors would go ahead and say, well, we could also put something there. You know what I mean? Thank you.
Yeah, for sure. No, and that happens a lot. Yeah, it happens a lot where you include other properties in rezonings, and there's always questions regarding. But this is as far as we're concerned, it's a fairly clean rezoning in that way.
All right. Well, that's it. I'll thank you. Except for now, we haven't heard from Dominic.
I just have one other thing.
Okay. With the Lori.
Could we just reiterate again, how many units again total?
How many residential units? Michael, what's the total number of residential? Is it? I think it's one. Is it 140?
154.
154. Sorry, 154.
Okay, are they all rentals or are they for sale condos?
I believe it's condo.
They're all condos.
Yes.
Okay, so the other thing I wanted to ask, I'm gonna follow up on again, because I'm gonna get stuck on the school stuff. Everybody knows this. I was looking at the environmental report, and there's a chart there, 6.6-1, and it says that anything over 121 units triggers a detailed analysis. Was that done?
I'm gonna give that to Amber and Kevin.
Go ahead, Amber.
Does anything that's 121 units or more, it does trigger a detailed analysis.
Can you just
So I'm
clarify
just curious.
where that chart is?
Wait, Amber, let me handle this. So we only analyze the rezoning. So we're not, this ULURP action is not for an R6. So this building is already 80% out of the ground as of right residential. So we don't analyze the traffic associated with that. That's what's called a no-build project. What we are analyzing is the 32,000 square feet that is being transitioned from as a right community facility use to the potential use as local retail or what is allowed under the overlay district that's being rezoned. And so this rezoning that we're asking for, the C2 for overlay, C2-3, that does not allow you to do more residential units, right? So we don't analyze. That's an as of right traffic. What we do is we analyze the increment between the community facility use that would have been proposed and basically the worst case condition of the local retail. That is the ULURP action before this board.
Right, but the chart that I'm referring to talks about schools.
Yes, and so that again, in terms of seeker analysis, that's the community facility analysis. And if you have a rezoning that generates that number of units, the 121 in this district, then you have to provide schools or community facility analysis. But we are not doing a ULURP action that's proposing new units. Those are as of right units, and so that 121 is the threshold number of units in this area of the city that would require you, if you are doing a rezoning that is inducing residential development of that number, to perform analysis or to perform a community facility analysis.
Got it, thank you.
Okay. Well, thank you all. Marty, do we need to stay on for a few minutes to discuss next steps and thank our guests for coming? You're still on the mute button.
I think Mr. Recchi was saying something.
No, I just want to say, we worked hard to put a really good project together. And you have to remember what was always there. There was a vacant lot there for many, many years that we got so many complaints on. And finally, we get things moving. Everything's moving so quick that, King David Nursing Home on the other side is also developing that property. So all of a sudden, and it's going to be advantageous for the whole community.
Okay,
By the way,
thank
do
you,
know when
sir.
they'll be ready? Do we have a target date?
Target date for when our property is going to be finished?
Yeah.
Yeah. Was it April of 23?
Michael, is that in or around April 23? Is that accurate? That's correct.
Yes, that's a projected finish date.
Okay.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
Thank
Okay,
you.
take
Thank you.
Bye.
Thanks to everyone.
Thanks for coming.
Marty, do we drop off?
Yep, you can leave.
Okay.
Thank
Take
you.
care.
Thank
All
you.
right, bye.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you all for coming.
Do we stop recording now?
No.
Well, we're still in meeting. Dominic's still on.
Mhm.
Well, there's basically no.
Usually CB11 meetings are like.
Like what?
You should have tried this in CB10 and see how long you went. So I guess, Marnie, Lori, what's our next step? Are we giving you a recommendation at the next meeting, or do we have time?
Yes, so because it's ULURP, we have so the next meeting to hold a public hearing and make a recommendation. If you want, Ross, I can take back all the concerns and comments that were made, and we can reconvene maybe next week. And we'll send out to the committee what was some of the concerns. I'll do a draft, and then we could have further discussion.
We have further discussion, and then what the public hearing would be the same day as our next meeting, or?
Board meeting, correct, February 10th.
Okay. Well, those are that's fine with me, Lori.
Unless you have discussion want to put forward now, but I'm sure you may have some recommendations based upon the presentation.
Well, I think the big thing was the truck.
Mhm.
That was like the main point about the trucks, but I also have concerns about the school and the buses and so forth. And
So
then the combination of those two together.
Yeah, so the school is going to go in there regardless of whatever position we have. So you have an opportunity to put a proviso in there that you have managed parking operations for the school as well as the supermarket aspect. I mean, I am sure you don't want to put these box trucks and deliveries on the Shore Parkway and the residential portion of 24th Avenue. So I can write that all up based upon the discussion here and send that out.
Yeah, you do what you always do so well, punch list or the list of what our
Yeah.
concerns are. And then if any of us have any that we missed, we can bring it to the next discussion and finish it up with what our final recommendation would be to the, or will we give the
So-
final recommend, or we wait for the public
have one-
hearing
I have
and then
one
give a
question.
recommendation?
I'm sorry, I'm a little confused. I'm thinking that if you're giving them the rezoning, which is they're gonna do anyway, the school, whatever else, there's property across the street that they're saying that they're also gonna be developing David residency. Is this going to be setting a precedent? Like, are we giving other properties along that Cropsey Avenue the opportunity to build more commercial spaces, which will to me, it's just the traffic and the parking situation seems is going to be really not
So-
pleasant for anyone who's living around there.
So let me just tell you or fill you in on what I shared with Ross and Lori. EDC a few years ago did a study of supermarkets, and that portion of our district, there's a high need. There's a high need. And you have I think in those two census tracts that this property falls into, without occupancy at this development, we already have something like 6,000 people that live in that small area. And if you don't have a car, it's a problem. I mean, they're not wrong about the availability of shopping. I don't know that this food supermarket is going to have a drawer. I mean, it seems it's pretty small in the square footage. So I don't know how much more traffic. I mean, it's not like Target or BJ's where it's a destination. I think it's the surrounding area. I mean, other people, unless it's a great market, if you live closer to 18th Avenue at Key Food, you're going to shop there. If you live farther down on Cropsey towards Coney Island, you're going to go to Stop and Shop. I mean, I don't know that you're going to have that draw is what I'm saying. And there's definitely a need.
Okay, thank you, Marnie.
So you just have to
As-
consider that in your deliberations.
As-
And
as far-
I can share that with the committee, the mapping that was put together in 2018.
The other thing we didn't talk about at all, and I didn't bring up, and I was going to, was about staffing between the stores, the supermarket, and then the school, in terms of teachers and, administrative staff, that's parking too. I mean, you could have 30 people at least just for the school, for parking.
So then
I
you
mean,
could, you could add, I mean, you could add in in the recommendations that they have to provide off-street parking in their facility. There's no place to park on the street there. I mean, I don't know where those employees would park in that area.
I have a question. What's not saying I wish there were any, but what are the proposed penalties for, not following a stipulation? Say they build it all, the school's up and running, and in year 2, there's no more parking available. They had it for year 1, but not for year 2. Who do we send in to complain about that? There's no enforcement division for us. So like putting a stipulation on is only as good as it gets us to the borough president's approval, right?
Well, we're advisory. We play an advisory role,
Right.
and the borough president, who has an advisory role,
Of course.
puts a stipulation, but if the stipulations are accepted and part of the application, city planning, if they're not compliant.
So then, like, hypothetically, what happens? Like, year 2, they take away those parking spaces for teachers. What happens now? Teachers are parking on the street. We know about it because we live over here and we see it on the daily. We ask a teacher. They say, oh, last year they had it, not this year. They took it away. It's not in our contracts. We're a private charter school, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Now we're calling up city planning. What happens? The agency gets your call.
You know, I mean, I would have to look it up on how it's enforceable.
It's probably not
Or
much.
not. I
It's not
mean,
much, not much.
exactly. So if the
Oh.
school went out and the community facility
Yeah.
went in as of right, I mean, this is as of right.
I know, but there's other things they're asking us for that, you know,
Right.
that touch on
I
all of
don't
these things. You're
know.
asking
I
600
don't
cars a day.
know. I don't know that they would do that because there is no availability for on-street parking in that area.
Yeah, and follow that, I mean, Andrew, really, if the spots weren't for teachers, they gave more spots for teachers, but they got rid of the teachers, they had no place to park, as Mark said, there's no place for them to park outside. And if the spaces are used up by, you know, by tenants or someone else instead, how are you gonna be able to come and park to use the commercial space? So it
I know.
becomes self-defeating.
I'm just saying, watch out when you try to put stipulations on something that's as of right, and we're putting a stipulation on something here that could be, you know, for the actual rezoning of it, stipulate that, you know, your as of right stuff will not hurt us more, but they go ahead, they get the rezoning, and then there's nothing to stop them from doing whatever they want in the future once they get this rezoning. Not a problem. And then to Victoria's point, especially if other developers see this and come in, Cropsey Avenue is now a hotbed possibly for, you know, commercial spots now past 23rd Avenue. Not saying it will happen, but you get 2 more applications in the next 5 years, and now we have an increase of hundreds, maybe thousands of people on a block. That's hundreds of cars. You know what I'm saying? Like, schools are overcrowded already in District 20. Like, this doesn't seem like a, you know, it's well thought out in the moment, but in the whole span of things over a 15-year period, like, this could come to bite us, you know, later. Just
I don't see.
If we could require
Sorry,
parking.
I don't see why there's so much hostility toward, it seems, toward like, oh, what if this becomes more of a commercial area? First of all, however we vote or whatever happens with one project doesn't necessarily mean it has to happen for the other. And secondly, everyone, you know, shares the concern about parking, and there's no question about it that if any big commercial area, projects are done, whether it's this one or other ones, they should add parking. But assuming the parking is covered, and obviously that is a big assumption, but if that happens, I don't see why we should have just this general objection to more commercial, more commercial projects in the area. The one and only thing that I find concerning, and this only came up at the end, otherwise I have no objection to this, but the one and only thing is when they were talking about, and I know this has nothing to do with this particular change they're looking for, but killing the parking spaces for the school buses. I mean, you know, as you know, the area has already, you know, really dearth of parking spaces anyway, and I think that to say that we're going to kill it for certain hours of the day for the school would be really bad, and I think that they should not be allowed to do that, even though it does not have to do with what they're looking for from us now. But they should not have to do that. They should not be allowed to do that, and they should have to do that do the unloading in the parking lot. That would be my only concern. Is if the school bus would kill the spaces.
That's a good idea, but you know, what it made me think about was the combination of this grocery store with the school, is that if they do take, you know, 150 feet in front for the school buses aren't parking there during the day. They drop off at 8 o'clock, they're gone, and now you're gonna have 18-wheelers or big box trucks pulling up in that spot to unload.
Oh yeah, we don't want
There's-
unloading on Cropsey or on Shore Park.
Combination of
You have buses waiting for the kids to come out, so they'll be waiting at the schools. They do that now over here in the public schools. You have school buses.
But the spots will be empty from, say, 8:30 to 2 o'clock, and that's perfect time for a big truck to pull up and use.
It's not going to be empty. I think they said it would only be certain hours of the day that the no parking would be there. But you know,
We do it
like
7 to 4. It's 7 to 4.
You know,
I know that would be ridiculous if it was the whole day.
It is, and that's how they do it for the schools.
Yeah,
Yes.
that would be ridiculous.
No parking from
you know.
8 to 4. Yeah, no parking 8 to 4.
7.
Those are the
It's
signs.
7.
Oh, 7 now?
The school.
Yeah, I live on the
Yeah.
block.
Okay. No, it's not only a question of parking. Concern is also the amount of traffic, vehicle traffic, people traffic. I mean, it's, you know, again, you have commercial areas in the back, like from BJ's, Target, you have Circuit City, not Circuit City, Best Buy back there, you have Kohl's. There's a tremendous amount of cars coming in and out from Bay Parkway going into that Caesars Bay parking lot. You add that to a supermarket on Cropsey Avenue, who knows, it's gonna be a disaster. I don't think this was thought through, to be honest with you. I really don't. But then, that's my opinion.
All right, so we're gonna reconvene next week, right?
Yep.
Yeah?
Yep.
Good?
Motion to, do we need a motion to adjourn?
You
I
got
have
it.
one- I'm so sorry. I know I have just a quick,
One
is
more
there, if they can't, if they're thinking they want to do something commercially, maybe there was a way to use it commercially that would be improve quality of life instead of hurting our quality of life. Maybe there's another idea they can come up with so that we kind of compromise. That's all I'm thinking, because it just seems like it's a done deal to me.
Doesn't
Like,
building
I
a
get it.
supermarket improve the quality of life?
No, not the idea of a supermarket that has constant motion coming in and out, like what we were talking about with the school there. I don't think so. I think that there could be small, shops around the area that people can go and shop. We don't need a larger space.
Like neighborhood supermarkets. Like
Yes,
like
little
mom and pop supermarket,
stores,
yeah.
they're fine.
Yeah.
Why give and also we're ruining the characteristic of the neighborhood. We do want to support our mom and pops. Those are neighborhood people. And so I don't know, who the other commercial people are coming in to take over. Already we've seen people losing their jobs locally. I'm concerned more about the quality of life and keeping people who are in the neighborhoods and letting them stay in the neighborhood. So many people are leaving because of what's been going on with the development and these just things that they think are going to improve our quality of life. People are moving out of Brooklyn. They're moving out and going somewhere else because of it. I talked to all my friends. They all want to go. It's terrible.
Oh,
I wanna
Victoria,
keep them here.
I follow what you're saying, but I do think in that neck of the woods that the people living there would love a supermarket. I think they would. There's a lot of people there that I've seen on the other side of Cropsey, on the other side, who are a lot of immigrant population that don't drive. And I think they would love to cross the avenue and go to a supermarket. So I really can't say anything about the idea of for the community, honestly.
All right.
I've been to Haim Solomon many times, and I will tell you that from there, especially if you don't have a car, I mean, as you know, there's no stores at all for a few long blocks, and I definitely think that could improve quality of life. As far as the mom and pops versus the big chains, I mean, we don't know who is going to run the supermarket, but again, I don't think my opinion is it's not appropriate for us to decide who should run it. Whoever obviously has it, the jobs will be the jobs, whether it's a big chain running it or a smaller store. People will be working, will have the jobs, and I don't think that we should try to control who can own the store.
I agree. And Marnie, if you can include, I know it's in there, the square footage, or you know the neighborhood better than any of us. What maybe in what we're going to discuss in our next meeting, what's a comparable supermarket? Is this more like the Seatown? Is it more like the Met? Is it more like well, we had Milk and Stuff or something more in the neighborhood? If we can tell by what they submitted, then maybe we're not worried about this being another shopping spot, or just put it in perspective when we discuss it at our next meeting.
You got
But
it.
Ross, they don't know if that whole entire square footage is going to go to a supermarket. Then they mentioned the possibility of a bakery and of a pharmacy, so they may subdivide it. So they don't know yet.
Right, but wouldn't that be that? Yeah, but that would go to. But I guess we want to know what the maximum size of the supermarket could be before we get all excited that they're building a big Wegmans.
Yeah, but you see,
I wouldn't mind a Wegmans.
whatever they do put in there, it also contributes to parking. It contributes to the traffic. It contributes to deliveries. So this is not only related to a supermarket moving in there. You just mentioned a bakery. They have to get deliveries. Any commercial store that moves in there is subject to deliveries, is subject to parking, is subject to workers. I mean, that's, on a global thing. It's not a question. We're all mentioning a supermarket because that's what they presented to us. They say, okay, split it supermarket, split pharmacy, split it, you know, bakery. All those still have to have deliveries. They still have to have trucks coming in and out with deliveries. They still have to have workers coming in and out, supporting it. You have the people coming in and out. That's all traffic in the whole area.
I think we'll have
That's
to
what we have to
remember
look
that
into.
and discuss that, and also remember that their discussion, their point about their loading docks, since they brought it up.
Yes,
If
that's
we
all
want to
commercial.
require that
That's right.
everything has to go through the loading
That's right.
docks, since that's what it's built for anyway.
I have it
Then
in my notes.
we should put that in. I know Marnie has everything, so we can do this at the next meeting.
You got it.
You know,
I'll
and
type
then
it
we
up.
got to realize also there's a buses that runs along Cropsey Avenue too, coming
Right.
around from Caesar's Bay.
All right.
All
So
right,
till
so,
next week.
no, there's a
I'll
whole
get
lot of
that out.
traffic coming in.
Well, thank you all. Have a good night.
Thank you.
Now you have something to
Thank
sleep
you.
on.
Night.